Okay, it looks like we're back. Matt, can you confirm that?
Yes, it might be on a different video. Let me see. Can you move your screen?
Oh, yeah. Give me one sec. And let me move it back to presentation mode. Okay. Are we good?
Are you sharing the link?
What do you call it? If you go on Discord and announcements, there's the link for the channel. So
Well, I think, to the channel.
yeah. So whatever streaming should show up there on the page.
I believe it is streaming, yes.
Okay,
A
excellent.
little bit delayed, but I think it's there.
Yeah. The latency should be about 20 or so seconds, I think, between Jitsi and YouTube. And I hear that's normal, like no matter where you go. Yeah, it's an issue of latency and how quickly the two programs can talk to each other. So I would think maybe like OBS might have a delay, but it's not as bad or something like that. I wouldn't know. This is my first time ever doing any sort of live streaming. No, I'm not a Twitch streamer in disguise.
No, just chat.
Yeah. Yes, Luis. Good. Yeah. All right. So then we'll get the show back on the road now that we're back entirely. Okay. So last time we left off with just the suggestions about just about general concepts. So now going forward, I have a roster that's essentially been building of different groups that we will be trying to incorporate or thinking about incorporating with or just doing more work with. So one of which I can pretty much say is already joined the fold in the background. Today just happens to be their official announcement. So first one on the list is NIH PCR Biotech Interest Group, or PCR Big for short. And the leader for this is Alex Sattler, who's here with us today. And Alex's background is that he's a fellow from NIH, so a fellow NIHer, and we both have the same kind of ideas about getting more in tune with the biotech industry. So Alex brings a lot of cool stuff to the table. He's originally from the West Coast, so that's awesome, and he's definitely all about getting the NIHers back out into the public. So these are the six. I do have them kind of split up just so they're kind of easier to see. So, there's Alex again. So that's just a little snippet from his website and then the last event that he had. So he ends up adding an additional monthly seminar series into the mix, with his being a mix between standard scientific talk and also the interplay between being a scientist and then dealing or heading into the biotech industry. So this is his third or second one.
That was third.
Third.
And fourth is next March 14th. Someone's coming
In person? Nice. Nice. Awesome. No time for question right now. I got to move through these. Okay, so the next one. So Luis actually met them with me. So there's a gentleman who runs a group on Meetup called Bethesda Data Science Meetup. I've talked to their leader twice. His name is Itai Katz, and he's willing to join the fold. He was going to try and make it today. I don't think he made it due to the snow, but so his group is more about in the talks and seminars as well. I know some people have mentioned in the past that we can be a little bit lacking on the talks and seminars. So having both of these two, Alex's group and Nitai's group, into the fold, adding more talks into the mix, I think is a good thing. On Itai's side, it is more geared towards data science. So the last talk they had a PhD grad student from UMD give a talk about their research into machine learning and machine learning methods. So very scientific talk, very very scientific talk, very academic, but very interesting. Would be more interesting if I understood more, but that's just lack of knowledge on my part. And you can see from the photo that they actually get pretty good turnout. So, and the reason for this is Itai has been in the region for some time. He has a biotech company that he runs out of Rockville, but previous to that, he used to be faculty at Children's National. So, my impression is his population are people that he knows for a while, and that they come to these events regularly. So between this event and the last event that I went to, it's a stable, good 15 to 25 people who show up. So this is good. They'll be very, very good into the mix. And essentially this means more cross promotion between this group and many of our events. They are not very project oriented, but Itai is interested down the road for some sort of larger scale project if we can find something. So next two on the list. So one is called Because Science Inc. So they are a store as well with some community elements to it. I had met the founder through a cold email because I was rushing to try to find somebody who can help do a one-off event for crafts. And her background is that she was a PhD candidate at University of Rochester in chemistry, I believe, and decided that I don't really want to keep doing research. But she had this thing that she had been doing for a while where she takes old circuit boards and turns them into jewelry. And that turned out to be very, very successful for her. She has a store in Northwest DC, right around the corner from Hack DC, actually. So it's on 16th Street or 15th Street, I can't remember, but it's near the Safeway in Northwest DC near Hack DC. So she's right over there. They have a store space, and somewhere through mid 2023, I believe in summer, they will have an event space open there as well. They're interested in having either some of our events hosted in their space, just so that they can have foot traffic in there for that type of affair. They also have their own events as well, but their events are on the smaller side. They're usually meet and greets with people who are in the science and tech field. Their clientele is mostly families and people who are looking for science, like those. If any of you guys have ever bought anything off of ThinkGeek before they were closed down and merged into GameStop entirely. So these would be like T-shirts with, like Einstein or something on them, or they would be like these little gadgets that maybe you'd find from a TV show that has some nerdy theme behind it. So that's her setup. So not yet per se, but more further into 2023, we'll be likely doing some stuff together. And she's quite the go-getter. So
Gabriel says cool on chat.
yeah. Yeah. So my hope is, we'll be doing more stuff. So last time, the second to last time, I had met this gentleman over at an event hosted by Itai over in Rockville. And I met this gentleman, his name was Stephen Chen. He has his own community that he's building called Code and Coffee. It is Nice. Oh, yeah. How was it, by the way? I haven't been able to attend. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yes. So I met Steve over the winter break, so around New Year's. And he seemed really excited. He's like super busy. He travels all over the country setting up these meetup groups. But there are 2 chapters here in the region. I believe there's one in Alexandria, and there's one over near Reston, I think. Sterling. Yeah. So while he may be too busy to attend anything one-on-one, it looks like he has this really good formula for finding, I don't know where he finds these people, but finding like really good people to take over the chapters while he's, building up new ones. So I have not met the chapter leaders for the chapters here. However, I can always get in touch with Steve again, and then he can direct me over. and see if we can do more stuff with them. So they do much more informal networking, meet and greets, and I think occasionally they do talks as well, based off of the stuff I see on Steve's LinkedIn. Yes.
Yeah, I know a couple of the organizers also, and besides Code and Coffee, they have a sibling event called Product and Pastries.
Yes.
It's also it's more like business.
Interesting.
Entrepreneurship.
Nice. So yeah, I don't know. Like the guy's like a magician. I don't know how he's able to do this so quickly. But if anything, I want to talk to him more, just because I want to see how he's managed to find the organizers. That's the key, right? Because without the good organizers, things just don't get done. So where he finds them, I don't know. But I would love to learn more from him. But he's open to working more together. Okay, so about summertime last year, fall time last year, I was reached out to by another nonprofit in the area called Potomac River Keepers Network. They are a nonprofit that is built around making sure that the Chesapeake and then the Potomac River is somewhat swimmable and immersible. It's a lofty mission, but they seem to have the ambition and the funds to try at least. I feel like it's an effort that's very Herculean in nature. However, they are they're up for the task. So
Sorry, water sampling buoys, that could be a collaboration project.
So what they already do is they have a network of citizen scientists, people who collect water samples for them all throughout the region. And actually, what they have is they have a testing facility on a boat in National Harbor that was donated to them by some retired military admiral guy. So the plan of collaboration for us, once things settle down for myself and them, is to, well, they want to start they want to start a meetup group for, or some sort of group for trying to it's hard to explain, but they want to have essentially a group of people who are able to report polluting or things that could harm the water supply in the region. And they're particularly interested in Montgomery County because studies from the region on pollution show that Montgomery County is the main polluter of the Chesapeake Bay watershed, more than Northern Virginia and DC proper. So that's their aim. The other thing that we had thought of is to go and take a tour of their water testing facility on the water, the Sea Dog as they call it. So, Alex.
One thing that makes me think of is like in an Oregon situation, one of the things you have to do when you're growing up is outdoor school, and you like literally go to a camp for a week when you're a middle schooler, and they have like staffers that will literally like teach you about water quality and stuff. So to me, that seems like a great way to do outreach and like connect with the younger generation as well, because it's a pretty low pH probe for these different test strips and stuff are things that are pretty accessible to people without too much skill but interest. So I don't know, makes me think about that. Sweet, I hadn't thought about that.
So we go back and forth here on what exactly we aim on doing, but once things come a little bit more concretely, it'll be more clear. But one thing that's definite is at least to get a field trip to that. I'm really interested in seeing that ship. I have no idea what it looks like. The worst case scenario is it's a little ship, but no, the way they made it sounds like, no, if you can fit a water testing lab on there, it's got to be of some size. So it'll be cool to see regardless, because I've never seen what water testing in the natural setting looks like anyways. So that's something I'm excited for. So that'll probably be something to expect more towards the summer or late spring. Yes.
You gotta surprise Montgomery County pollutes the Chesapeake more than, let's say, Alexandria, which still has like a combined sewer outflow. When it rains hard, all the raw sewage comes down to the river by Alexandria.
Really?
Yeah, no joke. They're fixing it now, and DC was doing that until recently, because DC recently they had a tunnel bore where they made a basin and stuff to try to catch some of that, because they had combined sewer system too, and Alexandria still had it.
Interesting.
Anytime rains do my plan, it's raw sewage going straight into them.
Huh.
Actually, same in New York City. They actually, they do a good job of keeping their river clean during, when it's not raining, but yeah, again, when it storms, a lot of sewers goes in.
Like the old sewer systems that they're,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
they haven't fixed it
I
yet.
feel like, I
Yep.
feel like there's a potential for a lot of, I mean, a lot of
The
cities.
same problem with ours, that I think they've been successful. The Potomac River is rated, you can swim in most states now, but the Anacostia River still has the sewage runoff when we flood. But the Potomac River is pretty good.
There might be an opportunity for a win-win-win in
Yeah.
a situation where it sounds like what they need, at least their ask, is a reporting system to report, citizen scientists and reporting pollution of it. That's mobile app development. We certainly have that talent among our community. There could be an opportunity for you to look at early fundraising through a grant.
Yep.
To fund mobile app development, and really you're pocketing the money and you're getting a developer from the community to build this thing for this group. So,
Yeah.
It's really the key to that is having the volunteer mobile app developer, but I think we have that among our wherewithal.
And if
to
we
source that.
and if we don't, I think I know a place where we can get them, right? Callie?
Well, yeah, ActBC is actively, I'm leading a group that is already searching through grants.gov for applicable grants for these kind of community groups. And we surely have mobile developers, application developers. And I've done some mapping before, and we can develop that.
There's groups like Coders for Good, and there's a lot of these
There's
groups.
Code for DC as well. They're in the area as well.
That might be early-ish money.
Yeah.
That's also an opportunity to collaborate with them.
I agree. So I always have my point of contact over there. Serena, fun fact, we went to undergrad together, so that's how that ended up happening. But it's just one of those things. You get a message out the blue. Oh, hey, see, you're doing cool stuff. Yeah. Where are you at these days? Awesome, cool. So that's you can consider that an open channel when we're ready to act, or keep that open, and so on and so forth. I mentioned that there are these gentlemen from Columbia. From Columbia, Maryland. They have a small biotech company that is related to drug monitoring. They've kind of fallen off. I think they had come to me originally because they were looking for more opportunities to pitch their company. They felt that they did not have enough places here in the region to present it either to the public or to other people who would have money to fund, and that's kind of the genesis of our conversation there. Last time I followed up with them, it looks like things are going well. Actually, they had picked up a contract for, I can't remember whom, to have their product placed there. So it looks like for right now, they have kind of backtracked on that original ask. But the idea itself is interesting, and I'm sure that if I email them, they would be willing to at least give any sort of leads or advice or on trying to develop, I guess, that type of pitch series.
What series of funding are they at?
That's a good question. My guess, I have no idea. But what I do know is that they've been at it for 6 years at this point, and they were unable to get a break for that first 6 years up until they got this contract. So I don't know if they actually, if I'm remembering correctly from our conversation, they didn't actually get any sort of like Series A, Series B type funding from a VC. They had mostly been funding their stuff themselves from the work that they do in the area. So.
I wonder if our Path to Rare fund can contribute to this one. You're talking about the Blue Nix.
Oh, yeah. So that's their company name, Blue Nix. I'll have to see if they're still open to this, or because they found their first route for success, they may have just dropped the idea, because the idea would be, well, if they had the idea, don't pitch it if you're not willing to help, right? But we'll see. So that's kind of the rundown. Of these potential groups in the area to do more work with later down the line. So that we'll leave that there for right now, up until we get into the next feedback session. In terms of bigger concepts to work on in 2023 is kind of I guess I have a lot of code names for things in my head. It's an easier way to remember things. But one of them is, well, so far we've been doing is building this coalition of various makerspaces and other types of groups in the area. It would be good to just keep expanding that reach and to keep the connections going. So, for example, I've not touched base with Nova Labs yet. That's on my list of things to do. I keep, every time I contact them, they just gets lost to follow up. They seem to have a lot of things going on. So one of these days it's going to work out. But as you can see, we're building a pretty good roster of these more community areas throughout the DC region. I would like to keep building on that and keep going and see see if any other makerspaces in the extended area between here towards Baltimore are willing to work together and do more things together, or at least have some sort of supporting backbone over time. The vision for this initiative is not exactly the clearest yet, I'll be honest, but the idea being is there can't be any harm in making contact with more groups that especially have their own makerspaces, and then to see what exactly can be done there. So Nova Labs, and then we found this other place called Unallocated Space in Severn. So that's headed towards Annapolis at that point. Yes. Yes.
So there are a lot of computer science generators. So they're right near the NSA. So a lot of the NSA folks in their spare time go.
If they're computer science, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's computer science. For example, they have multiple server racks at their space, which is kind of a unique feature for what they do.
Which would be cool.
Especially if they're trying to crowdsource like data mining and like.
Well, at a high level, what you see is a lot of variation and beauty and spectrum and other good things, but each one has its own culture. And
Yep.
so that's a very server computer science, and I'm sure they do other things, but like they're deep in the server space.
Yep.
All these things have their specialization.
Do they have any like GPUs on the server?
Dude, I have no idea.
They build their own racks. So I'm sure they do all that.
Yes, Kelly.
So are you looking for people to hop in and make connections with these groups? Unallocated space sounds like a group I would be in if I know about them.
Yeah. Yeah, so far I'm the one who's been doing the legwork on making those connections. I have no problem someone else acting as ambassador, so on and so forth. I have a unreleased, unclassified methodology for how I do it, which I have no problem putting it into writing. But yes, I do have a special sauce formula for how I approach these sorts of things. But yeah, no, I would love help on this because I can go over there and who knows, I haven't had the case yet where I go to a new space and it's in a territory unfamiliar to me. And yeah, the normal reaction is, oh, that's awesome. You know nothing. This is great. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll come across a scenario where I find a new group and they're like, you know nothing, get out of here. But no, it'd be great. It'd be actually, yes. So we'll talk one-on-one and I'll run you through the secret sauce. And yeah, it'd be much appreciated. And then for myself, I definitely want to take the lead on Nova Labs on that one. They had told me about various ways to try and meet with them one-on-one. Some of them I can make time for. And that's definitely, they're the big one of the bigger ones in the area. So definitely. I have no idea about the space, like the size of unallocated space. That's totally unknown territory. So yeah, what this will, no, that's literally their name. Like, that's not a placeholder name.
It makes more sense with computer science, like you can about the stack and stuff.
Yes. So by the next annual meeting, I think I'll have like a better idea of what that vision will look like. Yeah, I'll have a better idea of what that vision will look like, especially on the backdrop of some other things happening in the region. There are like certain funding bills and stuff like that for makerspaces. Maybe there's opportunity there. I'm not really sure, but it doesn't help to make more contact, more connection, more crossover, and seeing how we can all, well, give each other a hand. So I brought in Alex into the fold. So then the main reason for this is code name is Operation Bastille. Is behind the scenes, him and I are doing a lot of work to try and expose people within the NIH campus and possibly expanding to other federal facilities, but to local biotech companies and community organizations like us. So many people, yes.
Can you double check your YouTube stream, please?
Oh,
I believe it's gone down.
great. Not again. Let me. Okay, resuming. Okay, let me jump back to presenter mode here. So hopefully by next time I'll have something a little bit more professionalized on the media end. But yeah, so Operation Bastille, and so far we've been able to wrangle up a bunch of the bigger DC biotech organizations to do so. Thank you for coming, Jake. It's much appreciated. So yeah, so we managed to collect a good handful of people from around the region to help us with that. So most famously, yeah, a lot of them. So we'll see how that turns out. But the goal is many places in the region kind of have an issue about reaching people who are within the ivory towers of federal labs. And with Alex and I both being on the inside, we have a unique angle of being able to essentially tell people about these things, bring them out, and have them participate in some of our events, hopefully, as well as other things in the region, with the key of getting them to stay once they transplant to the region.
And I was thinking about this as you were talking about makerspaces, and this is a total pipe dream, but it seems like it could be within the mission of the NIH to actually have an NIH funded and like made makerspace, you know, that's accessible.
So prior to meeting you, I'll give you some oral history, but prior to meeting you, I asked around at NIH and I tried. The problem is if you read your postbac contract, as well as the postdoc contract, as well as the staff contract, anything that you develop that is done on NIH campus, as well as using NIH funds, the IP belongs to them. So one of the original ideas I had prior to, just before Petri dish was formed, was what was going to be called a biomaker space, where essentially people can essentially be refugees of their institutions, work at a facility that we build that has all the standard lab equipment, be able to develop their own biotech ideas there, and then launch it out of there. But that will probably show up in next year's annual meeting if things go well. Yeah, it's the IP stuff. It's because people who are working on these projects, like on their own, they want to keep their IP. They don't want to give it up to NIH and then, or work on your own idea only for it to be licensed back to yourself. I mean, it's kind of a weird concept, but that tends to be one of those like central issues. Same if you work at a biotech company, right? If you work at a biotech company already, if you develop something in-house or whatever for them, they keep that IP. So. Yeah.
So if someone's working at NIH, but they go to your makerspace, does NIH still own their IP?
No, because as long as you can show that you didn't develop anything on their campus using their equipment and on your own time, they will not.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I think when I brought that up, I was thinking of something that like.
Oh, you mean like a sponsorship?
Like literally like NIH sponsored space and like.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like separate from campus.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a pipe dream.
It's not a pipe dream. If things continue to go well, I think that's something that could definitely be like you might see it on the big items for next year's annual meeting or something like that.
I think we would need some level of advocacy that's pretty substantial to.
Yes, we're building it now.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm saying not only from, like, for the directors, but also from politicians.
Yeah.
Directors and IHR beholden to the
So you don't know this, but I guess I'll tell you now. But there are a couple of aces in the hole here. So first, you and I are doing a lot of legwork on getting support from the region. Like we have some of the bigger players already in our deck, right? Most notably MTC, who they like us. BioHealth, so, and as you and I are finding out, Steve has his hands everywhere without us realizing it. The other thing is Maryland is having a bill that was passed. They had a bill that was passed last year, and the bill is about funding makerspaces in Maryland. And the state is willing to commit $1 million every year for makerspace development for the next 4 years, with some rules and stipulations, of course. But that's the state support, and the organization that's dishing that money out is called TEDCO. Now, I've talked with them before. They like the idea. In fact, they liked it so much that I told them about this idea in May of 2022 to a gentleman who I think is like one of the senior execs over there. I met him last month in person for the first time. And when I reminded him, like, what was the last thing we talked about? He's like, oh, yeah. I've been telling other people about that idea too in the region. So yeah, like he's like kudos for getting that one to stick. But so we do have some support from the higher levels here about that concept. So like I said, unwittingly, yes, we're kind of setting up that work now, and then hopefully by next year it won't be so much of a pipe dream. But you know, man, making me spill the beans.
So there's direct funding through the entity, and there's also something like a cooperative agreement where they can kind of they're helping you and they're actively helping you, but they're also not owning.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I appreciate it.
Yeah. So yeah, but that all begins with this. Essentially, essentially that this helps build that goodwill, because some of these things that some of these groups that we're working with, they are advocacy or trade organizations, so they have their ear to the powers that be. So very important work that you and I are doing here, and the team that we're building for this. And hopefully, but the more important thing that I really want from this is that one thing I've noticed is once you get us NIHers out into the community, out of the ivory tower, we actually do really cool stuff. We really do. So you have gentlemen like you and I, but let's just say, for example, over at the Rockville Science Center, the main teacher for that organization, the main professor, he's an ex NIHer, and I've met some other NIHers from the ex-NIHers from the region who have their own companies, who are like really trying to do the whole, can you convert scientists into business people, for example, these sorts of things. So once you get them out, they do really, really well. It's just getting them out in the first place. Hell, even pardon my language, but like the current executive director for GenSpace, right? The oldest community bio lab in the US, she's an ex-NIHer. Actually, she started here in this area. She started CABS and then left to go take on that job. So as you can see, like once you get them out, they do really good stuff. So it's just getting them out is the problem. Yes, Luis? Oh, ads. So Alex and I, through this together, his organization brings a monthly seminar into the mix that people can join into, and then hopefully down the line we'll have occasional workshops for people who are in the sciencey field, and then we're also working on getting something equivalent to more exposure to the industry in the area in some way, shape, or form. It's up in the air, but we're working on it. Okay, so next one, Dolphin Tank Pitch Lab. So This is two ideas that formed around the same time, but from two different people, right? So Matt had this idea, so did Dan from Bluenix, and it's the same concept: is having some sort of pitch series, a place where people can present their work, and hopefully one day, aside from getting just exposure to people seeing your ideas, having a place to practice that presentation skill set, hopefully one of these days either win small cash prizes, maybe larger cash prizes, and even possibly get exposed to people who can help fund your ideas. Um, so that is something that, like I said, two individuals came up with it at the same time, and so it's out there. So the definition for this one is also not exactly clear, and it's not exactly sure how this intertwines with some of the other stuff that we're also building behind the scenes. So, and the reason I say that is because the next big item overlaps with this one in some way, shape, or form. And the code name behind that is Ignite the Spark Day. So, one of the things we realized is one of the things that helps an organization like us maintain longevity is to have some sort of long-term thing that we can consistently come back to. I got this idea from my experiences over with the Rockwell Science Center. We have an annual festival that we kind of plan around every single year, and that essentially also gives them a reason to exist, even if everything else collapses. Right? They have this festival they've been launching for a while. Having this one either annual or maybe biannual large event that we can consistently plan for is a way to kind of keep the fuel going. But this also ties into a bigger concept about having larger scale projects and giving them a way to be held accountable by having them kind of have a place to present themselves, to recruit, to learn new things, so on and so forth. I'm not the lead on this one. William here is the lead on this one, and he brings this concept from his time at Virginia Tech in the entrepreneurship club over there.
So I think, well, not only does this tie into the previous point, but I think it could also tie into the Project Net Seal that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because, I think like career fairs are kind of done is the impression that I would get. So I think if we can rebrand from a career fair to like a innovation fair, where like, not only do you have those like pitch meetings that you're talking about, but you can also have like managers in attendance. You can have, tech transfer people in attendance, VCs in attendance, all these different things. So I feel like, I don't know, it seems like that could be the like DMV Petri this year event.
Yep.
That combines all of those things together. So you don't really have to fence it off with this particular category. Maybe that's, you're right about that.
In some ways.
The prior slide of the Dolphin Tank and Pitch Labs would be incredible to bring up with Steve, Project Histories, kind of talking. This really kind of mirrors the mood of Project Histories, where people were giving mini pitches in a big circle there, but there's more of a structural forum for them to share their company ideas or so on. That would have a big audience from Steve's group.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah.
The structure is therefore, I guess, are they weekly, monthly, is it that? The pitch labs? No, the one you meant, Project Histories, probably monthly. At least knowing it, so that's good.
And those are not programming focused, the Project Histories?
They, it's like designers, user researchers, there are coders, they're like, I make that in my spare time.
But it's not limited.
Yeah, it's a broader group of people.
There's something I think we should be conscientious of, and I've seen this in the cadence. Cadence implies something when you talk across these events. Something like a yearly, a bi-yearly event, it has a different kind of format than a monthly event. A monthly event is this kind of, they tend to be large events. You rarely have 2 people at a monthly event. You tend to have 20, 30 people, but there's a little bit more work to get to that point, a little bit more intentionality behind the monthly. And And then a lot of us, I personally have a lot of experience with weekly events. The weekly events are great, but they also have a different emphasis. They're on the fly, they're real quick to put together, but you can build social groups and continuity and stuff. So I think there's a very explicit emphasis at the cadence for these different events that you go into Eyes Wide Open. What are we getting from a yearly style structure? What are we getting from potentially a monthly, which we haven't talked too much about monthly events, versus weekly events? Like what's happening like this? They all have different kinds of things that they do really well, and you know what kind of critical mass you trying to build and also play a role.
So, where does that tie in with?
Oh, it's just
Just general notice.
I mean, like you know, Spark Day is explicitly and literally a yearly to bi-yearly event. It would be very hard to do it monthly. It's
Yes.
not impossible to do it monthly. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
I've heard us talk about things that could be weekly. I'm interested in, you know, if you have any ideas about that monthly cadence.
The monthly cadence, the Pitch Lab Dolphin Tank was originally envisioned as a monthly because of, I mean, it would take, you can't expect, you need to give people some notice or something like that. There are some other like pitching style events in the area, but they're either yearly or they're like quarterly, and they're not, the issue I had with the other events in the area that are in that similar format is that they're not open access per se, right? My original conception came from open mic nights at comedy clubs. They are weekly, but for this, I think because people have to prepare presentations or something like that, that would probably be relegated to something more monthly. Alex.
That comes to mind for me is like, I think the special thing about this Spark idea is that you're probably going to have people in attendance that, you know, are powers that be that, you know, a lot of people will want to be able to have an audience with and want to be able to talk to, especially if you're thinking about like pitch lab and stuff. So like, what if you had like the winner of every pitch lab monthly meeting have a spot in like a pitch competition during the Ignite the Spark Day when you know you're gonna have DCs in attendance. You know? That gives like a certain level of stakes that like, you know, brings the monthly meeting to a level of impact. You know?
Yeah.
Give the
No, there's definitely room for like integration there, and you know, they'll have to be thought of over time, I think. And just to be clear, like I'm very I don't know what's the word to say it. It's somewhere between sober to cynical about how the first few iterations are going to go, right? So just as a example, right? And I use them as an example a lot because I'm highly involved with them. But Rockville Science Center, right? They currently have an annual festival that gets about 3,500 people to attend, but that took them 30 years to do, right? So you know, the first iterations and these sorts of things, they are going to take time. And then integrating, you know, being able to find the integrations between these different series all into a bigger annual event, that will also take time to figure out as well. So I definitely have it noted, but you know, we'll see how long it takes for it to all work out together. So we'll call that vertical integration.
Remind me to connect you to the guy who threw together Robot Fest. Robot Fest was a self-funded but well-funded DC-based maker fair. He threw together, I think, in 1 year, and he had like 2,000 visitors or something. So he's a go-getter guy. If you want to learn how to do it big, I mean, he has magic money.
I'm big on it. Quick.
He has magic money.
Yeah, I mean, he rented the DC Convention Center, so.
Magic as
Yeah, like
But I mean, he had people there, and he had corporate sponsors. I think Intel Kane or whoever has that Android like robot.
Yeah, that's a guy who knows people.
Black at the end of it, he had to risk a lot of time to do that. I'm not saying that's where we are, but you know, as far as like, can it be done quickly? Yes. We don't have to resign ourselves to the way RC is already done.
This is true, but it's just I'm just giving you back like my experiences with this so far. So you know, it's you all may not believe it, but this is my first rodeo at all of this. So
It's gonna be realistic, but
yeah.
it'll be optimistic.
This is true. I mean, somebody's got to be the Eeyore, though.
Reality could be the ER.
All right, give me one sec. Just finishing noting. All right. So then I think, yeah, this is the next spot for suggestions. If there's any other ideas you guys have, possible ideas for event series that maybe we can follow up on, anything like that.
Is there gonna be a section on like grants and funding?
What, for this year? Oh, you mean for this presentation?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, no. And the reason for this is because I'll jump over to one of my supplemental diagrams. So somewhere in my mind, if you haven't realized it yet, I can be pretty sequential in how I do things. I don't know if anyone here has probably figured that out yet, but in my brain, this is kind of like the phase setup that I have going. So right now we're phase 1, phase 2-ish in that sense, and the funding and granting wasn't supposed to come until phase 3, just because phase 1 is just me getting the very, very basics together, like, you know, having a website, getting the nonprofit status, the business account in the background that has like no money in it yet, but yeah, and figuring out how to grow from here. You know, phase 2 is starting to put a little bit more formalization down, right? Getting these annual events going, having a more slightly routinized schedule throughout the year, and then finding ways to delegate certain things off to other people. That way, this isn't a one-man show, right? Then it can start to have a lasting structure. And then this also comes with like some of the other things about getting those more helpful things out into the population, right? These opportunities to present, these opportunities to build these sorts of things, these larger scale things that people can attend. Then phase 3 is making sure it all stays by getting the money. But I'm happy to like move the money up, so on and so forth. I would have to try and find somebody who's willing to help like write grants and stuff and seek them. I know you're looking through grants.gov, so this is a great place to start.
Yeah. I have friends that have written grants through like a different context, to like a clinical context, but I'm sure a lot of the concepts are translatable.
I think so.
So I think, I mean, I think the money has to be part of the conversation from the beginning, you know, just because the vision of what's possible is limited by funding.
Yes.
So,
And I'll put this out there that I think the best use of funding, hands down, we can do is to give Ulysses a full-time job doing this. You know, I think that's what we should be going for before space. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I've told people before, actually, if I could do this as a full-time job, I'd be actually pretty happy. No, I'm being serious, because, you know, I'm a researcher, I'm doing all this stuff, but like,
What he does in his free time after work between all the time he spends with all of us. So,
Yeah.
I can imagine 40 hours of this.
but yeah, so I mean, I'd be pretty ecstatic if I could do this as a full-time job and get paid for it. But in the meantime, you know, happy to keep this going, but yeah, it'd be nice. So like I said, because my mind tends to be more sequential, right? A tends to come before B, or like I can work on A, B, B, C, but there's a choke point at E, so I have to get A, B, C, D, and before I can get to J, K, L, M, N, O, P, right? That's usually the way my brain works, for better or worse.
I think as part of phase 2, like maybe you can change the begin searching as like identify targets, funding sources, whether that's crowdsourcing, whether that's these are the grants I want to apply for, whether it's like I need to raise this much money. You know, I think you need to have some targets before you hit phase 3.
How many paid staff are you dreaming about in phase 4?
100,000 paid staff. I didn't say how much they were going to get paid, but they're paid. $1 each, 100,000, $1 each per year. And then I'm just writing down some notes. So, proposes moving to to fund phase 3. Good. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I mean, it's the bias of being in the nonprofit side of things. So thank you.
I feel like maybe talking, I mean, it seems like a connection with Rockwell Science Center. I'm really curious how they're money to put on an organization of 3,500 people.
I mean, I'm on the board. It's not pretty.
Their board of advisors is like a who's who. They used to have the Montgomery County chancellor or something for that, but
Not anymore.
they used to.
Yeah.
They're an institution now, so they just coasting. But they used to have just a really powerful board of advisors, and that got a lot of say. And the expense to MC was low.
So they
Yeah.
get more funding from the government.
Yeah, so they, I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it in this since I'm on record, but yes, there's, without giving specifics, then yes, there's a lot of money that comes directly from municipal sources, and then the rest is through a combination of sales, donations, and sales and donations and fees. After that, we're working on trying to get more into the corporate sponsorship realm. That's one of the challenges we have coming up this year.
Something we're thinking about though is like paying a graphic designer like $300 to come up with a shirt design, and you can like put it on Etsy or whatever.
Oh man, dude, I would love to sell merch.
Yeah, selling. I mean, that would be a good way to get some seed funding, right?
Mm-hmm. Callie.
And I don't think on the phase 2 hallmarks we have board roles.
So proto board. What? It's just a bunch of Arduinos that are running scenario analysis for me. I'll have ChatGPT create like 10 distinct board members. No, so the reason for this would be, the reason would be is sometimes a mistake with nonprofits is that the first board or so is just kind of like your friends, and they're not the greatest at trying to get you to where you need to be, right? So in this iteration around, I'd like to be a little bit more selective on who actually becomes on the board of directors to actually guide the organization, presumably after my departure, right? Or can do it in my wake if I'm too busy with other stuff, or can just do it so that I can get back to some of my old personal projects from the beginning of this presentation. But point of the matter being is, it's a little bit more responsible to get the first board to be a little bit more under more scrutiny than where my experience is being on a board so far, right? And the reason for that is despite, even though I sit on a board of another organization and they kind of let me in really quickly, you don't always know what you're going to get. So we had tried to bring on some other board members over at Rockwell Science Center, and they like left within a month because we didn't do our due diligence with them early on. So these sorts of things I'm trying to avoid on the first go around. On the other hand, the proto board means that yes, like I am planning on having some sort of people that have, responsibility and that have direction and that have say in things. Like, for example, one thing I do want to try out is more of a committee type format for certain things that can be self-managed. This is where William comes in, being the lead of the Ignite the Spark initiative, right? So, and he has a group of people helping him with that already. So that's like its own steering committee, if you will. So they're able to take the lead on Ignite the Spark Day. I don't have to be involved 100%, but I can just watch from a audience perspective and then just jump in if I need to correct, or if I need to give advice on something, so on and so forth. I am, but like I'm not as active as everyone else, right? So that's right here. So committees are that proto board organization. You have authority. You can do stuff without me being directly involved, and you're able to go ahead and just do things, right? With that means you actually get an actual what the actual title will be. I mean, you can be, I don't know, would you like to be called committee chair or director? I don't know. What do you like? Emperor. The supreme ruler, William. But no, that's what I mean by proto board, though. Like, be able to give people responsibilities in exchange. They get a nice title. They get leeway, and they get a lot of responsibility over the direction of things already, right? The board is for long-term visioning and for making sure that they're able to keep building the connections in the region so that we can be an institution as well in the area. So, for example, I guess on the board that we have for Rockville Science Center, right? Somebody happens to know that one of our local politicians. So then we're going to have them over next month over at the Science Center for like a private thing, right? So that's the kind of stuff that your board really is about. It's like long-term vision planning plus making sure that they have the connections they need to pull in the resources that you need when you need it. So that's why I can't let the first board just be like the friends, right? Like I got to be just a little bit more scrupulous. Some friends will be probably on there, but like not all of them, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, okay, so I think that I've seen this in other places where there is board of advisors and there's board of directors.
Yeah.
And who you want on the board of directors are those more power players. So that's not us, we're friends. I think
Yep.
we make good advisors.
Yep.
But the board of directors, I think they're the people that know politicians, and they're the people that pop off, and they're the people fight foundations and fight money and all those things that feel personal to me personally, but like we need them as power players advocate for us. And they can be symbolic positions, they can attend maybe 2-3 events a year, but who they are matters, and the connections they're able to give us, that's their key function. Yep,
and they also play in the reputation hand as well. So let's just say, for example, in a wild dimension, right? Like in a wild dimension, I get, I don't know, like the CEO of Moderna or something to be on the board, right? He only has to attend maybe like 2 or 3 meetings a year just to like, okay, how are things doing over here? What are you guys up to? So on and so forth. But somebody else from someone outside the organization is going to be like, whoa, like they got him on the board. Wow, they must be doing cool stuff. Let me go reach out to them and see what they're doing. That's what your board of directors is for. What? Yeah. Where the other option for the board is there is a lot of like smaller tasks that have to be done on the board if they're more active in the organization. That's kind of the role I play over at the Science Center. I do a lot of the nitty gritty as a junior board member. So a lot of like making the documents and so on and so forth, and like doing all the minute meetings and like the minutes for the meetings and, like keeping people on task, these sorts of things, right? That's like junior level for these sorts of positions. Yeah. So that's like, where you get the lawyers to do so because, I don't know, they feel the need to do this kind of stuff. Or like a mid-career business person would do. Anyways, so that's okay. So then that already puts me in the next section about where you can help, right? So I'm imagining that we're going to need steering committees. We already have one for the Ignite the Spark Day. If we continue with Dolphin Tank Pitch Lab, that'll need its own steering committee as well. And it's definitely a worthwhile experience if you have no real background in like project management, leading groups, if you're trying to look for another way to pad your resume with leadership experience. And if you want to learn how to like event plan and so on and so forth, it's a good experience to do so. And because we are a real nonprofit, like, happy to adjust the titles and puff them up as much as need be in order to help your career. Yes. Supreme dictator for life, ever blessed, the most venerable, ever benevolent, supreme leader for life, Alex. But yeah, so that's one of the ways you can help. And once the initial, so at the beginning, essentially, the ones who are most adamant about leading them, like William was very adamant about about being the head for this one, and so that's a good way to be in charge. But also, what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, once the first body kind of gets formed, then the plan is to put those meetings for those committees probably on Meetup or whatever, so that people from outside can just kind of stroll in, see if they're interested. That way you can recruit new people in, and hopefully we bring in people in that way. Yeah, somebody along the line will be looking through Meetup or some other event site and say, oh, this is what they're working on. Cool, let me come and check it out and see if I can help, or I want to build up these skills, and so on and so forth. And then we can get them roped into everything else. So look out for those. I don't know when we're going to start putting up the meetings for the Ignite the Spark committee, but